All right. Hey, now, y'all, how we doing today, kids? Everybody feeling all right on a Tuesday here in the Bay? Look at the smile on Tony's face. That's how you start a show, with a smile like that. Who can be in a bad mood today? Even though behind the scenes, there's a lot going on. But in Tony's world, in my world, it's hectic as all can be. But we're here to give you a show, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Creative Tony, I love the smile to start the day. Well, you got your fish T-shirt on. Is that what's going on? You're
Well,
happy
dude,
you got your uniform on there? Yeah. I got my
summer,
uniform on, too. I'm wearing the Fed
nice,
shirt.
dude,
Yeah.
nice.
You got your suit on. I got my suit on. We're ready to go to work.
If you put me underground in this T-shirt, I'm good. This is the Baker's dozen. But Fish just announced spring tour. Not
Look at
many
you.
shows.
Look at you.
A couple of Bill Graham Civic.
Ooh. How
Yeah,
about you
April
get your buddy
22nd.
How about you get your buddy Paulie Mack a ticket for that? I'm due to see them, and I would love to go to the Bill Graham Civic. Why don't you hook me up?
You're already booked, buddy. You don't have a choice. You don't have a
Good.
say in the matter.
I
Just
haven't
pick which
seen
one
him.
of the dates.
I haven't seen him in a long time, and that's the kind of show I like to go to. A Bill Graham Civic. I'm
Yeah,
all about the Bill Graham Civic. And rest in peace, Bill Graham, one of my favorite guys of all time. Creative Tony.
yeah.
It's ironic and
hmm
interesting
hmm
and somewhat noteworthy that you are all excited about your Fish Spring Tour when today, earlier this morning, I have put all my plans in place. I'm headed to the Sphere in April. I'm going to do another 3 shows.
Boy.
I might be reeling your ass in for a gig. So don't make any
Bring it,
plans.
let's
Don't make
go.
any
Come
plans.
on.
It's the last weekend of April, and we're going to take this show on the road. Polymax Particles goes to Vegas. You're all coming with me. But Creative Tony, just be ready.
Yeah.
It's the final weekend in April. It's all set up now. Hotel is booked. Tickets are in hand, and we just got to get the flights. But I'll see you in Vegas, T. In the meantime,
Yes.
wow, do we have a lot to get to today. First
Yeah.
of all, the Warriors got their asses handed to them yesterday, which they really did. It was the worst loss
Dude.
in the Steve Kerr era at home for the Golden State, where they lost 125-85 to the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum with his vendetta against Steve Kerr, so he's going to ball out. The Warriors were underhanded. No Kuminga, no Pajemski, no Draymond Green.
Yep.
It was ugly out there, and but that was kind of lost in the shadow of the national championship, which we'll definitely get into. A couple of quick announcements, Tony, just a little housekeeping before we dive in today. We have, first announcement I want to make is the first brand new Paulie Mack song parody, and I guess in over a year, will debut tomorrow. It's a little unusual. We're working on different methods now of recording songs because YouTube has a lot of licensing stuff, so we can't queue up like a pre-recorded track by Zeppelin or something like that. There's a lot of copyright stuff on YouTube. So we're getting creative. So just be ready tomorrow because we're going to unleash the first ever song parody on Polymax Particles. They're coming back, and the soundboard's right behind it, I promise.
Love it.
Number 2, Creative Tony is going to unleash his top 3 today. I would say in about 20 minutes because we're going to we got a special guest coming in at 2:30 today. His name is Larry Krueger. He's one of
Lawrence.
Lawrence Krueger, dude. Lawrence Krueger the third. You know, it sounds very dignified.
Dude, I went to high school with Lawrence Krueger. How about that, man?
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, he was a senior when I was a freshman, so our paths didn't cross that often, but we definitely knew each other. And then, man, Larry and I have such a storied past, man. We've been through the ringer, man, in the Bay Area media circus.
Count me in too. I don't want to be left out. I've been through a ringer. I want to be in the group. Yeah.
Until last year, you avoided any of the nonsense, but Larry and I were involved in some nonsense a long time ago. So.
That whole bit. Sure. No, we don't need to go down that road.
No,
today,
but just love Larry. He's always been.
Me too.
He's always had
Me
my
too.
back. He's had our backs. He's been so helpful in helping us get this show going. So I'm very excited to bring Larry on at 2:30.
Yeah, me too. So Larry Krueger coming up later this week. Could be as soon as tomorrow night. It might be Thursday. We're working out the details right now. But it's the return of the mystery guest. And I'm telling you what, we got a pretty good one lined up, man. It's just a matter of logistics now. What night can this mysterious person join us? Will it be tomorrow night? Will it be Thursday? We'll announce it on X as well. Shout out Twitter, X, whatever you're calling it today. And by the way, Rags checking in on the comments line saying we only want one thing from Tony, and that's a breakdancing kind of display. So at some point, Tony, I'm going to ask you to throw the cardboard down.
Is that a break-off challenge from Rags? Because
Rags, is that a break-off? I don't think Rags can break dance, but he'll try. I've seen him do other pretty weird things.
Dude, I have not done any break dancing in a long time. I remember trying to show my kids a backspin a couple years ago, and it didn't go well.
I don't think breakdancing, let's be honest for a second, explore the culture, the subculture of breakdancing. Does it even exist anymore? Like, do kids still break? I don't know if it's even a thing anymore.
I think so. I just maybe it's not called. Well, there was breakdancing in the Olympics, dude. And remember that girl from Australia? She just got lambasted for her
that's right.
her lack of skills. And
okay,
yeah, I think it's a one and done for Olympics and breakdancing, by the way.
I think so too. Well, you're a very athletic young gentleman. It wouldn't surprise me if Tony had a few moves left. And Rags with a follow-up comment said, I'll have the break off when I compete. I'll wear a sock, one sock for Creative Tony, if you know what I'm talking about. All right, so Creative Tony. Go ahead.
I was gonna say shout out to the Chili Peppers taking the stage in nothing but a sock.
You know, my former partner, of course I do. I never saw him do that live, but Brian Murphy did, because he told me he saw the Chili Peppers.
Murph saw that?
Listen to this. He saw them when they were still like an opening band in the club scene. Murph saw them open for like a Fishbone, I think. And he saw that at do you remember the venue on Broadway called the Stone? It was right up the street from our old office. Anyway, he saw them do the whole sock routine at the Stone. That's in the very early days of the Chili Peppers.
I was just trying to find like a presentable picture of that, and none existed. So I was going to try and share a photo, but I can't find one that's They posed on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine completely naked at one point. So you might want to pull that up. It's up to you entirely. Anyway, Creative Tony, national title game last night. Did it deliver what you expected? Was it more than you expected? Was it less? How did it play out over at Creative Tony's house? Well, I think if you'll remember back on PMP yesterday, yeah, you know me. That's right. Somebody in the comments line said PMP, yeah, you know me. I don't want to find who it was. Was it Marcel? Anyways, thanks for all the comments, you guys, as always. What's up, Bradley C84? What's up, Fo15 West?
Why don't you get It's X up on the? Why don't you put up the It's X comment? It's one of my favorites so far, and he's speaking our language right now. He's talking fast times at Ridgemont High with us. You see it up there at 2:06 p.m. He's coming strong. He's coming strong.
I'll find it.
Well, It's X says, Paulie, if you're here and I'm here, isn't it technically our time? It's X. Welcome aboard, dude. Great text. And by the way, thank you, Tony. Please do subscribe to the show. That's what we really need to make this show better and make this show like kind of progress and move down the road. We actually are working on some stuff that we can't announce yet, but there's a lot going on. There really is. There's a lot going on with a lot of people right now.
You know what's funny too is Paulie and I are not big meeting people, but we actually have meetings coming up, and it's like what the beauty of working in radio all these years is I just never went to meetings. I just
listen, when I'll tell you what happens when I go to meetings. I don't hear a word that's being said, and I basically sit there and like draw the Van Halen logo on pieces of paper, or like the Kiss logo with the lightning bolt. And then they'll ask me, "What do you think, Paulie Mac?" And I'll look up and be like, "Huh? Yeah. Oh, no, it sounds great." And then I'll go back to do the Aerosmith logo. But anyway, we had a lot of meetings, a lot going on. But Creative Tony, put that subscription information up on the screen so people can join us and subscribe.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's really what we need, you guys. Help us out. And by the way, speaking of all our Twitter friends out there, because you know what's interesting, Tony? I've noticed we have an audience on YouTube. Right. And we got an audience on Instagram. And then there's like another audience and community happening on Twitter. What I would like to do is consolidate. It's like trying to herd up cats, rounded up cats running around. But I'd like to corral all these cats and move them over to YouTube if possible, or at least subscribe to the show, because that's really what we need.
Well, it's grassroots, Paulie. It's like it's punk, it's grassroots. We're on Instagram, we're on Blue Sky, we're going to be on LinkedIn. We're actually going to reopen our Facebook page that we had before. I mean, why not just blast it out, right? It's grassroots, and it reminds me of that great 311 album. You know, I love 311, Paulie.
I do.
The album Grassroots. Check out the album Grassroots if you're listening. Great follow-up album to their first album. Anyway,
Grassroots also the name of my favorite dispensary in the city. Shout out Grassroots on Post Street. Tony, go ahead.
That's where I learned the term bud tender, was when you took me to Grassroots and you said, "Oh yeah, we're just gonna go meet a bud tender." And I thought you were riffing.
No.
And then it says
bud tenders,
it literally says on a sign, "Wait for the available bud tender." And I was like, "Let's go." And you literally, I pulled up a stool. I had a display case.
Oh, it's very humane. Yeah, it's very, very humane. Yeah.
Wonderful experience.
There's no hiding in the shadows. It's all out in the open. Like, what's this strain do? I see crystals on that. What's that going to do? You can ask them any question and they have an answer. Creative Tony, I want your answer, though, on the national championship. So tell me about it.
I remember yesterday we said on the show that if Notre Dame can corral those receivers of Ohio State, they got a shot, and they couldn't do it.
No, not at all.
Especially on that. Well, two massive plays, because my friend Mike Trela here in San Carlos was at the game. He went to Notre Dame and he flew there, went to the game. He's texting from the game saying it was an incredible atmosphere. But there were two plays, like a roughing the passer on the linebacker number 9 Oben that kept the drive alive for Ohio State, and I think that was in the third or maybe early fourth quarter. Right. And then it was obviously that third down pass play towards the end of the game to Jeremiah Smith, and it was like a clutch throw.
Great throw, great catch. Yeah, right? It's huge.
That's where you just gotta, like, I tell the kids all the time when I coach that if you lose and to a better team or to a team that just executed better in the right times, you just gotta tip your cap. Hey, I tip my cap to Ohio State. My friend Josh Whittington, remember Josh from the band, my old band, Flakjack?
Of course,
he's a huge Ohio State fan, so he was pumped up.
Yeah.
But I wanted a better game, and I think most people did. And I was excited to see them crawl back into it.
Me too. No, right? It turned into a pretty good game. It turned into a competitive game in the fourth quarter or late third and into the fourth. Yeah.
Can somebody tell me what is going on with place kickers these days? Like,
in terms of
that was
what?
A chip shot. That was like a PAT.
Oh. Well, they're kids. Yeah,
I know, but they're kids. But that's the only thing they do every day.
I know. No. Yeah, but you know what though? Practice doesn't have the pressure of a full stadium and national TV.
Practice.
Yeah, we're talking about, but not a game.
Not a game.
No, but practice ain't a game, man. There ain't fans cheering, breathing down your neck. The camera's on you. So I always feel like you can't really predict how a kid is going to react in those circumstances. Now, professionals, I can't defend Jake Moody. I can't defend what I saw the Houston kicker try to pull off this weekend. He was missing everything.
Yeah, Fairbairn. He had it. Like I said, it might be his last. I wonder if that's going to be his last, because he had a great season. But if he makes that field goal and the PATs, it's a different ball game. Just like if that kicker for Notre Dame last night makes that field goal, it's a different ending to that game. I'm not saying Notre Dame was going to win, but it puts a whole different type of pressure on Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State ended up answering, but I mean, I just felt for Notre Dame, because you could tell that, they were just they got beat by the better team.
They did. No, flat out. And I think that's a reasonable kind of assessment of what we saw last night. And both of those kids, I like both quarterbacks of each team, both really giving all the power and glory to the higher power. I'm waiting for some kid to come out here with an upside down cross painted on his face and be like, I just want to shout out Satan real quick. I wouldn't be here without the Dark Prince. Lucifer's helped me along, and I wouldn't be here without him. Shout out Dark Prince. It would be kind of funny to see that at some point.
That would be hilarious. That's like if you pay somebody to do it. Like, hey, let me.
Well, because the Notre Dame quarterback does a cross in eye black on his cheek, dude. We do an upside down one with like a Black Sabbath logo. Shout out Frisco native 415. Say he's currently toking up. Listen, we're here for you. You know what I mean? If we can enhance that experience, it's our pleasure. Creative Tony, do you believe that with that win last night, it's kind of becoming a talking point today, like the ESPN guys are kicking this around? Does that signal any kind of changing of the guard in college football, where the SEC dominant for so long? They didn't even have a team in the final for the first time in forever.
Right.
So is the Big Ten like the new power, or is this like a one and done? How do you view the landscape?
I think it's refreshing to see.
I do too. Yeah.
I do enjoy SEC football, and
we all do.
Right, and I tell people all the time. I've been to 3 different LSU games, and at Death Valley in Baton Rouge, and the scene, the environment, the atmosphere, like the vibe, the energy, the camaraderie, the spirit of a SEC football game.
Yeah,
is tough to beat, especially when you grow up here on the West Coast. I mean, hey, no disrespect to Cal, Stanford, San Jose State, UC Davis, all those.
Stanford's got that brand new stadium. It's state of the art. It's gorgeous, but like nobody goes to the games.
Oh man, I went to a game against Virginia Tech this year, and it was like, I don't know,
it's a ghost town.
Like a third full, maybe.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful stadium too.
It's beautiful.
It's
beautiful
gorgeous facility.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, Stanford kind of comes and goes. The Harbaugh years were great, right? They were a national force at that point, but they're down right now. Cal Bears are kind of mid. They're in the 500 area, but I like to shout out the local teams too. Cal Bears.
Well, and their quarterback just went into the transfer portal, so it's just like that stinks.
You know what? I tell you the truth, Tony. I think I'm going to go into the transfer portal next. Let's just see what's out there for me. And I got to admit to you now that since we're talking college football, sneaky. A lot of people don't know this. My favorite Bay Area team in the college ranks might actually be San Jose State. I'm a Spartans head. First of all, you got Bill Walsh. Okay, shout out Bill Walsh. Yep. You got Jeff Garcia. And during the pandemic, they had that great season. right? During the COVID thing when there was all the lockdowns. San Jose State really had a great year. And I just like supporting the Spartans down there.
No question.
They're like the little brother, they're the little brother of Cal and Stanford and all that.
Totally.
But they put players in the pros, man.
No question.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're playing in the shadow of Cal and Stanford, but they put together a good product down there. Brent Brennan was the coach at San Jose State before he went to University of Arizona. He was a local kid, and he did a hell of a job. And I think he passed the torch, and now we'll see what happens. We have a dear friend, Mike Fideli, whose son is a long snapper for the San Jose State Spartans. So it's Spartan ball. We'll take it all day. We just need more energy because go to an SEC football game. So I don't know if there's a passing of the torch, Paulie, but I think it's refreshing to see.
I do too. No, it's good to see some new blood in there. I mean, Notre Dame hasn't been in that kind of position in a long time. Ohio State, been a while since they won a national championship, but they're generally in the conversation, at least competing for one. I want to shout out Perry Olson on the comments line. He goes, guys, you're sounding kind of cryptic. You're teasing stuff that you can't give details, but here's why. Let me just explain why, because I don't want to be cryptic. And Dom, I agree with Dom Peralta. I need more Black Sabbath, man. I do too. I want to tell Perry that the reason we can't divulge everything yet is because there are actually other people involved. And I don't want to speak on behalf of them, but there's things happening in the background or behind the scenes that hopefully will come together. Well, you're laughing, T. What are you doing over there? I know you're
because Dominic Peralta, he's just on point, man. And yes, I hear what you're saying, P. Yeah. But he gave. We talked about the Australian breakdancer, and boom, look at Dom Ray Gunn. What's her name? Who broke the Olympics, man?
It's a tough handle.
It's a tough handle.
Call me Ray Gunn. Yeah.
I was trying to find a photo of Ray Gunn where she's like breaking and doing well.
Right.
But she didn't have much.
Well, that's okay. You know why? Because we can use that missed opportunity to present the today's Tony's top 3. We got to do it early because we're about 10 minutes away from Larry Krueger joining us. So T, I don't know what you got up your sleeve.
One sec, P. I got this is like a real quick, just cause, right? Because there we go. There's Ray Gunn, right? There we go.
Hey, remember listen. Ray Gunn? I did.
Dude, look at that. That's the best. Oh, it's the best. Oh,
let me see the face again with the lips and everything. Yeah, make it. Dude.
That's great. Oh, it's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a one and done, man. I think it's one and done.
See, question. Leave that picture up for a second while I ask you some etiquette questions around the breakdancing community. Would it be more legit, like if her hat was sideways? You know what I mean? Like, is she b-boy enough? Is what I'm asking.
Probably not. I think she was trying. I think she was trying too hard. You know,
to go b-boy.
You either got the swagger or you don't. You know,
right.
I definitely don't. For the record, by the way.
Hey, I don't want to beat up on Ray Gunn though. She made it to the Olympics. Good for her. You know.
Yeah, but Well, the breakdancing one and done, I think, for the Olympics. So
it
was a good experiment. Good experiment. I loved seeing it, but it didn't grab me the way I was hoping it would grab me.
All right, Creative Tony. Well, listen up here, kid. Let's get into your top 3 today, and then we're going to open the door, and in comes Larry Krueger, and I'm going to pummel him with questions. I got a lot to ask Krueger today, so let's get into it. T, what's up your sleeve in the top 3 today, buddy?
Tony's top 3.
I love you.
Tony's top 3.
And a third time.
Tony's top 3.
I'm going to start posing out while you do that.
There you go.
Excellent, T. Any music bet under the top 3?
Oh, yes.
Give me a pulse. Give me some kind of pulse, for God's sake.
Stand by.
Yeah. See. Are we feeding ducks again?
Oh, we're feeding the ducks.
Beautiful.
So, hey, P, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Dubs lost by 40.
It was bad. It was a daytime game. I think a lot of people kind of missed it, but I watched the second half. It was brutal.
40. They were down by, I think, as many as 45.
Now this is a defending NBA champion team. This is a team with a chip on their shoulder because the Warriors beat them in the finals. And then you got the whole Jason Tatum angle that, the whole Kerr thing in the Olympics. He didn't play Tatum, so Tatum went off. And it was ugly, man. It's about as ugly as it gets. But where are we taking this, Steve?
So you know how much. Well, you love it just as much as I do. The Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaq post-game show.
I do.
With why am I blanking on Ernie Johnson with EJ?
EJ rules. I love EJ.
Look, I was gonna say just a little side note on Ernie Johnson, one of the nicest people in the industry.
He keeps that damn thing on the tracks too, because those guys get nuts, and he keeps it kind of moving along. Yeah.
He does a great job, but he also does a great job of giving them their space to be them. There's only one person that could have that gig, and it's him, and he does a great job. But Kenny Smith was saying that he thinks that the Warriors need to go young. Let me read a quote. He says, I think with Steph Curry, he actually plays without the ball a lot, and he's running off picks. So now you can bring in and say we're going to do a young rebuild with young energy, get him shots easier because he's catching, shooting more instead of beating people off the dribble.
Right.
He said, so the rebuild is different. They should go young through the draft, through trade, keep guys like Kuminga. That's where they need to be. Charles Barkley responded by saying, it doesn't matter what the Warriors do unless they get a superstar like Jimmy Butler. So my question to you for number one of Tony's top three is, do you think that the Warriors should go young as they and kind of tailor their game to the youth and Steph Curry?
Great question. Well, I mean, I think if they do go young, you're no longer really talking about a playoff kind of caliber team anymore. Because, I mean, they'd have to get rid of guys that would help them achieve at least playoff status. Guys like Wiggins, you know what I mean? You might have to package a guy like Kuminga. If you're talking about bringing in a guy like Jimmy Butler, you're going to have to give something up to get a caliber player like that. However, I don't think Pat Riley's going to budge on this. I think he'll just say, you know what, Jimmy, you're unhappy? That's tough S. Because I'm running a team here, and I don't care about your delicate sensibilities, so you can go cry in your beer. Now, I don't know if he's going to get out of Miami, but I've heard that his preferred final destination is Phoenix. And again, whether or not that happens is anybody's guess. Now, I like Jimmy. I liked him a lot until this whole thing happened. I think this is kind of a bad look for him. I don't like how he's pouting publicly. He got suspended 7 games. It's just not a good look. I can't imagine how his teammates feel about him. I've heard anonymous players saying we don't really want him back in our locker room anymore. So it's bad down there. It's bad. As far as the Warriors kind of going towards a youth movement, how about you wait till next year on that? Because I think that they do have a shot at least to get into the postseason. They're a 500 team. That's who they are. They got their asses handed to them yesterday. So it shows you what happens when they play the best of the best in the NBA now. They can't fly at that level. So they're going to have to make some changes, but I would at least try to ride this season out, maybe acquire one guy, but I wouldn't mortgage the future yet for a youth movement. That's just me. I don't know.
Okay. And also you mentioned Pat Riley, right? And you said, Pat Riley. I love
Pat Riley. I'm a Pat Riley junkie.
Yeah. Right. And it made me think immediately of this. So stand by, Paulie, please. And just bear with me. Okay. Here we go. It made me think of this. And if you got me there, it made me think of this scene.
Come on, Arthur. All the other scalpers are sold out.
Scalper? Did you call me a scalper? Listen, gentlemen, I perform a service here. And the service costs money. Now, do you want the tickets or don't you?
Okay. We'll take them.
All right. 25?
20.
I mean, there's so much to analyze in that little clip, and I don't have enough time because we got a couple of minutes. But let me shout out the kid in the Montreal Canadiens jersey. How that happens, God only knows. This is down in Los Angeles. This kid's walking around a shopping mall with a Canadiens jersey. Shout out Rocket Richard. Shout out Guy Lafleur. I'll go there if I have to.
Nice, Paul. Dude, your hockey knowledge is impressive. I'll always say that to you.
I played hockey back east, and I used to be a monster Ranger fan growing up. So I got a lot of years of NHL viewing under my belt. Now, Creative Tony. Okay, on to point number 2.
Number 2 of Tony's top 3.
Yeah.
This weekend coming up, Championship Sunday, right? We're going to get into a ton of stuff, and I'm still not happy. I'm still got a lot of angst. But there are certain standout players that are playing in both games. Of these 4 players I'm about to list to you, which player is playing the best football right now?
Okay. Oh, I like this. Okay.
Saquon Barkley, Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, or Josh Allen?
It's Mahomes, obviously. Obviously, Patrick. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, I don't even know whether the other 3 are on that list. They don't belong there. They don't fly at his altitude, clearly. Thank you. Bring the Ducks back. Creative Tony. Okay, I'll answer it like this. My heart says it's Josh Allen, but my head and my brain and my eyes are kind of telling me it might be Saquon Barkley right now. I mean, he's been so dominant. And I want to pose a question, too, to you before you go into your final point, which is all this talk about Lamar's an MVP, Josh Allen's an MVP. I haven't heard anybody mention Saquon Barkley. Even in that conversation for MVP, and I think he should at least be considered, but it's almost like it's become specific to quarterbacks. that award. You know, you just don't see other positions really winning that award anymore. But I would contend that Saquon Barkley is well worthy of some consideration. And dude,
he reminds me so much of like how Walter Payton used to take over games. He reminds me of Saquon is single-handedly taking over games. He took over that game in last weekend.
He did. Yeah.
And that Washington's gonna have their hands full, man. But then again, Washington is not getting the respect because they're now 6-point underdogs. Like, and that's I don't get it.
That's perfect for them, though. The fact that they're getting disrespected and already like kind of look past, I think that's going to help them. I really, because they don't care. The Commanders are one of those teams. They don't give a shit. Say whatever you want about them. They're going to show up on Sunday and punch you in the nose, and I like that about them. I got
Leah Phillips, by the way. I just want to make sure she got the swear jar ready because we have the swear jar. Leah Phillips,
just dropped
it's good. No, come on, we're collecting money. Let's go.
Creative Tony, want to acknowledge Darren Reyes on the comments line because you played that Fast Times clip with look at this, he's still going. He played the Fast Times clip. Jefferson, that's one of two. I saw another one, and all his comments said, there it is. Led Zeppelin 4. Now,
dude, I love it.
That's high level stuff. That's high level stuff he's talking about right there. Darren, you and me, dude, we're going to need to hang out at some point.
Paulie and I have always said that if a university or a junior college would allow us, we would teach a semester course on
just lecturing.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I could do like 2 weeks on Mike Damone on his own. And then you got to get into Ratner and what his problem was. You know what I mean? Then you got to talk about Phoebe Cates. You're going to have to address her situation, dating some older guy in Chicago. What's that about?
By the way, we gotta get to bookmarks later on the show, Paulie. But I know. Yes, Phoebe Cates and Fast Times. You could go. What the soundtrack? We haven't even talked about the soundtrack and the use of the cars moving in stereo for the Phoebe Cates scene. I mean,
well, come on, man. Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of rewinding and pausing during that scene when I was growing up. If you know what I'm saying, I'm just being honest with you guys. I think I'm not alone. I don't think I'm alone in that. Creative Tony, one more, and then we let Lawrence Krueger III join us. Hey, Leah, how you doing today?
Look at her comment though. That's a great idea, Leah. And what's up, Leah? That's a great call. Instead of a Venmo swear jar. That's actually not bad.
She's on to something. No, she's on to something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, she's always been very good in business senses. Very good business sense. Number 3 of the Tony's top 3.
Thank you.
And again, remember the first 2 are sports related. The third is a wild card. Could be anything. Right. Okay. Could be another sports question if we wanted it to, but it's not.
We'll see.
Of these 4 bands that obviously, you'll see. Of these 4 bands, if you could go back in time and see with their original lineups, who would you see of these 4 bands?
Okay.
The Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, or Bob Marley and the Wailers?
Well, that's an easy one for me. I mean, I love all the it is. I mean, there's no hesitation on this. I love all the bands you listed. However, there's only one of those 4 that I would literally do just about anything to be able to access a time machine to go back and see these guys. It would be Led Zeppelin for me. And I would choose either the 73, the 75, or the 77 tour. Now, I never saw Led Zeppelin. I never saw him. I remember when John Bonham died. I was like in 6th or 7th grade. And I remember that, and that was the end of Led Zeppelin. So I was too young. I never got a chance to see him. But everybody I've ever talked to who saw Led Zeppelin, and there's not many people, but my old colleague Steven Seaweed on 107.7 The Bone, he saw Zeppelin. My buddy Barry at Red Devil Records, you ready for this? Check this one out. Barry at Red Devil saw Zeppelin on the Physical Graffiti tour at the LA Forum. And I said, okay. I go, and what was that like? And he said, Barry basically said, well, it was everything you've ever heard and then more. He was like, it was pretty life-changing. And the Beatles were not a great live act. They really didn't play live that much in their after their earliest years. Pink Floyd only toured once in a while. And sure, I would have loved to have seen Marley, but for me, it's Zeppelin. You asked the question. And by the way, last thing before we bring in Kruegs, there's a Zeppelin documentary coming out in IMAX. And it's coming out in a couple of weeks. Dude, I'm all over that. We might need to give some tickets away to some of our friends, I think, maybe to that movie. We can have like a little particle viewing party.
Great call. And Paulie, it's like you teased the bookmarks. If we get it to today, or get to the bookmarks today or tomorrow, I want to like dive into the trailer of that movie.
I would love that. Yeah.
I also want to give Mike a shout out here on the comment line. You forgot the Allman Brothers, and you're damn right, Mike. Like that Right. That could have been included. They should have been included in my question. You are damn right. I stand corrected.
Yeah. And Dom Peralta saying it, so I didn't have to say it. I got Allman Brothers tickets. I got to get out of here. That's high level, Dom. I know that's from the old soundboard. So nice top 3 today, Tony. I'm taking Zeppelin. Yeah.
Hey, while we're waiting for Krueger, I respect your choice 100%. I respect it 100%. I would, for me personally, I think I would do Pink Floyd or Bob Marley. I go back between the two, but it has to be Marley with the Wailers, right? Not the Wailing Wailers, not. Well, I can go deep into that, but I won't. So one of those two. Yeah, but fine. I also want to say, rest in peace, Garth Hudson of the band.
Thank you. I know. Thank you.
Right.
Especially on behalf of our friend Shannon Kaler. He's the biggest fan of the band I think I've ever met.
Yes. And also rest in peace, John Sykes, formerly of Whitesnake and of Thin Lizzy, I believe, too.
Wow.
Right. And so it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like when people like that go, who have made such massive contributions, especially Hudson to music, like Levon Helm, I was reading an article earlier that they called Garth Hudson Honey Boy.
Nice.
Because, and by the way, if you've seen The Last Waltz in, what's the name of the song where he does the sax solo, where Garth Hudson does the sax solo? I'm blanking on the name of the song.
Cripple Creek, I don't know.
No. Help me out in the comments line. Somebody help me out in the comments line. It's Garth Hudson on the sax.
Oh, it might be The Night They Drove Dixie Down.
It was The Night They Drove Dixie Down. I can't remember, but it's yes. And go to The Last Waltz, Dub City. Yes, go to The Last Waltz concert. Could be an option for your top 3. But by the way,
wouldn't be a bad one. Yeah,
right. We're waiting for Krueger.
I see. I like how he's big timing us. I like how Krueger's big timing us right now. He's like, yeah, I'll show up when I feel like it. We did agree to 2:30 though. I know he'll be along shortly, but go ahead.
I'm not worried about it. Yeah. Can I get something off my back, Paulie? Or no, actually, I'm gonna ask you some. Well, no, dunk contest.
I want you to get. Yeah.
Dunk contest. That's or Giants offseason versus Dodgers offseason. They're two things that I wrote notes about that. I'm just like, I keep watching the Dodgers at this guy. And this guy.
Dude,
and this guy.
I saw a fake tweet post on Twitter last night where it said the Dodgers have signed Robert Saleh. I thought that was pretty funny. It was like, why stop now? Let's just poach guys from the NFL. Give me some hockey players. Like, dude, Tony, I would say I like your topics, but there's really no sense comparing the Dodgers offseason to the Giants. It's two completely different galaxies, man.
Right.
The Dodgers, I think now, and especially with this World Series title, where they made the Yankees look silly, I think they have now leapfrogged the Yankees into you have to say it,
no
dude.
question.
They're
question.
the franchise in MLB right now. And they're stockpiled with talent and they're spending money. It's tough when you're living in a town like Kansas City or Baltimore or some of these smaller markets that just can't compete with the payroll of the Dodgers. I mean, they are throwing money around like it's going out of style. But the results are on the field. They're winning titles. So
they brought back Blake Trinan, who's a stud. Like
they took Blake Snell from the Giants.
They brought back Teoscar Hernandez. They signed Sasaki. Tanner Scott they brought over from the Padres. Kirby Yates they're about to sign. Kirby Yates, by the way, Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. Tanner Scott's ERA last year in 72 innings, 1.75. Kirby Yates in 61 innings, 1.17. They're getting these bullpen studs that are going to be shut down between the 6th and the 9th innings. Yeah. It's like, and then what do the Giants do? Lucchesi.
Well, let me
Lucchesi.
Dude. By the way, not to be confused with the Lucchesi crime family in New York. Dude. Hopefully. I don't know if he's got any connections, but don't mess with the Lucchesis. They're one of the 5 families. You got your Bananos, your Lucchesis, your Gigantes, the Columbos, and whoever I'm forgetting. My apologies. Don't come whack me. Tony, I want to ask you a question. Yeah, Lucchesi. But
real quick. Yeah. Go ahead. I was going to tell people this guy Lucchesi. Hold your thought. Traded Tommy John surgery in 2021. He missed all of 22, 46 innings in 23 with the Mets, and 2.819 ERA, and then AAA last year, except for one outing. So he's fighting for a roster spot. But my point being is that's what we're supposed to get excited about in this offseason. I cannot believe it, and money can't be the issue. Money cannot be the issue. I don't know what's going on, dude. So it's as I'm trying to turn the page to football. I mean, to baseball from football.
It's tough. It's a tough transition, and I'm with you. I'm very underwhelmed by the Giants offseason. I really am. I was hoping for more. I know Pete Alonso is still out there. That it kind of seems like a pipe dream to me at this point. It doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of movement on that from the San Francisco side. But it sounds like Pete Alonso's ready to listen if somebody wants to pay him. I think he's open to a change of scenery. I don't know, man. How would you grade this Giant offseason? Like A, B, C, D, F? Like how would you grade it?
Without Adames, it's an F, right? So I give it a C, right? But
how about a C minus?
A C, fine. At least
bordering on D.
At least I passed your class.
Yeah.
All right.
As soon as I pass your class. Yeah.
All right. So hey, Larry has entered the building. So I'm gonna bring Larry in. All right. Stand by, everybody, and please welcome to the stage Mr. Larry Krueger.
Yeah,
what's
man?
Up?
Hey, Kruegs. Hey, everybody listening and watching today. Of course, you know my guest here. He is Larry Krueger. He is the host of the Krueg Show, which is a great show. I think Larry Krueger, for my money, Tony, goes deeper and more thoroughly on 49er news, information, interviews. I mean, this guy works his balls off, dude. He's down at the facility every day.
Yep.
He's in the locker room talking to players, and he's been really great to us. So, Larry, great. Thanks for coming on today, man, and thank you so much for everything you did over the past year by having me on as a regular guest and meeting with Tony and I. Like, Larry, just so the audience knows, Larry was massive in helping us get this show off the ground, and here he is. So, Kruegs, welcome, Polymax Particles. It's great having you, brother.
Well, dude, it's great to be here with both you guys, friends with both you guys for years and years, and you know, when I saw the transition from radio, I'm like, you know what, Paulie would do great in this, and so I just wanted to reach out and let you guys know, because I know you had tons of trepidation and all kinds of questions and all kinds of, you know, how exactly do we fit into this mix? Leah Phillips, how you doing, Leah?
Yeah, Leah's in the house. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, there's just so many. Yeah, I thought of you guys, and I'm just like, you know what? You know, I know a lot of the questions that you guys are going to have are going to be questions that we have spent the last couple of years answering and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to shortcut your guys' experience and get you guys up and rolling as fast as possible, so you can, you know, start transitioning your audience from where it was, and you guys have a huge audience, to YouTube, and it's really quite impressive. You guys are here. We've got a number of KMBR people that are found their way to YouTube, and the audience wins, and it's just you know, the old Billy Bean saying from Moneyball, adapt or die, you know, adapt or die.
No, you adapt, you improvise, you overcome. Yeah. You know, and also, Larry, now we're all KMBR castaways. And I'll tell you the truth. I don't know, Tony, if we can announce this or not, but there are some more KMBR big names now behind us that are just about to launch some new projects as well. Tony, can we reveal any of that, or should we?
Well, no, Tom Tolbert's he's going to launch something in the next couple of weeks. And he went on Twitter yesterday and said just as much, saying, hey, he goes, for those that are curious, I'm going to get something going soon. He goes, and if you weren't curious, then carry on. Like, you know,
no, that's a perfect post by Tom. And I can tell you what, tell you the truth, Larry, I feel like Tom Tolbert, in my opinion, was the biggest name and the biggest star in the building. Like, and I felt that way really from my arrival until my final day. Like, Tom is the man at KMBR. And I really feel like there's a hole in the Bay Area kind of sports media landscape without him. And I'm really, really happy he's going to launch a new show. And I would predict, Larry, he's going to do incredibly well. I mean, he's Tom Tolbert, for God's sakes. Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like anything. You got to work at it and you got to stick with it. But, you know, I mean, it's Tommy is an institution, man. He's, you know, you're right. He was the biggest star at KMBR, and you know, it's really nothing has changed. I mean, you know, it's funny. It's like he hasn't lost anything. Nobody has lost anything. You haven't lost anything. I haven't lost anything. The only thing that's been lost is just that the revenue in the industry across the board. And it doesn't even. It's not even really about sports or about AM or FM. Right. You know, it's just about universal across the board, and it's just really what it is. It's like, you know, I have 4 kids, right? So Kev is working with me on my channel. He's 22, But I have a 14-year-old and I have an 18-year-old and a freshman in college. I got a freshman in high school. And you know what? The bottom line is it's like they just don't pick up the radio. And it's like
no.
The star of the media show is this.
Yeah.
It's the phone. And when you get into your car, your cell phone does not pair to your car. Your car pairs to your cell phone.
Right.
So this remains the star of the show.
Nice.
And so, if you walk down the street in any neighborhood in America right now with a $100 bill in your hand, you said, hey, I will give this to the first person who can show me that they have an AM radio with batteries that's working. I mean, you would probably go to like 40 or 50 houses, and then you'd find some little old ladies like, I just got $100.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, if you said, hey, I'm going to go door to door looking for somebody who has a smartphone and access to, I don't know, iHeartRadio or something, you would go like one house, and there'd be like 5 people in the house that all have smartphones. So that's just, that's the change in our world. And, and so we change along with it, and we just keep rolling. And all the people that dug Paulie's Particles and Murph and Mac and what you guys do, and are just going to find you, and you'll reharvest your audience back to the YouTube space. And you'll become bigger and more powerful and more wealthy than ever before. And eventually, at some point, the radio station will probably call you back and be like, hey, I've noticed that
you're stealing our listeners. Maybe we should sit down.
I think I would like you to be back here. Yeah.
See, that's the most gangster move by Krueger, that he's back on KMBR now, too. Are you still doing that 6 p.m. On KMBR, Krug?
I'm doing 6 p.m. tonight. I'll be on tonight on KMBR with Matt Miller, who's going to be my guest, who is the 49er fan, who also is the NFL draft guru for ESPN. And
nice.
Contacted him last week, and he's coming on tonight at 6:15, and we're just going to, just chop it up and look ahead. There's a lot of Niner fans who are like, they want to speed through the playoffs and Super Bowl and get to the off season. And we're going to try to kind of help him do a little bit of that by having a guy who knows the draft really, really well. And we'll have him on tonight for a half hour and pick his brain, and it should be fun.
Now, I have a question for you, Krug, before we dive into the nitty gritty of Championship Sunday, the action from a couple days ago. You mentioned doing the work, like grinding. And I want everybody to know that nobody in the industry worked harder than this guy, Krueger. And also, he was the one who was constantly asking for more paper and more ink in our printer at the station because.
Oh no, this guy, Krug's dude.
I burned down many trees.
I remember Krueger would have like notebooks under each arm, right?
Yes.
And then like all the colors in the rainbow highlighters. Oh, dude, the highlight king is Larry Krueger. No, you guy works his balls off, and the proof is in the pudding. I mean, or in the listening in this case. When you watch his show, I mean, he's face to face with the players. It's killing.
I also appreciate, Larry, you're not afraid to ask the uncomfortable or difficult question. And that's what I always appreciate you, especially when you're at those press conferences and you're right there in the face of Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch or whoever it may be. Well, but you're doing that for all of the audience.
And if I may kind of jump off that, Tony, or piggyback that, like I would say Krueger does that, but Larry's not a dick about it. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Like for real. And there are some reporters in the media that take like a stance. It's kind of like a surly stance, a salty stance. And I don't get that with you, Larry. And by the way, the results are again the results are there to see. Like Larry, you had me on a couple of weeks ago. You asked that question to Shanahan. Tony, we put a timer on this thing. What was it, like 5 minutes? The answer was several minutes. It was unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. At the end of the year presser, I basically just said, hey, man, John, Kyle, this question's for both of you guys. I said, inherently, it's like you're kind of pitted against each other, right? Because at the end of the year, only one team wins the Super Bowl. And the team that doesn't win the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter what team it is, the conversation's always like, did the coach up the players well enough? Or did the GM not give the coach enough players? And so it's like you're inherently in a conflict, or those two guys are, right? And I said, how, under all the pressure of everything that goes into football, can you guys not fracture, stay together, not point the finger at each other, and stay united? And Shanahan's like, that's why I picked this guy. That's why I picked this guy, because John is, he doesn't care who wins or who gets the credit. He just wants to win.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like that too. I really want to win. So, and he answered. He gave a long answer. It was like 2 minutes, and then John talked for another 30 seconds.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
I'll
long
say
that
this.
is it?
I'm not in this to embarrass anybody.
No, of course not.
I don't want to embarrass. I'm not going to the press conference to see if I can embarrass Kyle Shanahan.
Right.
I'm not going to the press conference to see if I can embarrass John Lynch. I don't want to embarrass those guys. If I could, I would give them the questions ahead of time. And I don't want to surprise them even. This is what I'm going to ask you at 10 o'clock. Here you go. But I also don't want to be a stooge. I'm not going to sit there and be a stooge and be like, anything they say is the right answer, or anything they do is the right decision.
Right.
And I'm a little bit more independent than that, and I'm a little bit more, I'm a little too impatient for that. So I do take the time to, if I'm at a Niner game and John Lynch comes upstairs to the press box with all of his scouts and everything, and they're walking by me, I'll take the time to walk over to John, shake his hand.
Oh.
John, how you doing today? Good to see you. Have a brief word. I have great respect for John.
Me
when
too.
My dad passed, and I was on the radio, and I'm not a fake. Larry Krueger's my actual name. You know what I mean? It's not. I wasn't like another person in high school So, and this is the city I'm from. So when my dad died, and my parents died during the pandemic, it was very painful. We're very close family. John picked up the phone, didn't know my dad, and left me this really heartfelt message about, he's praying for me, he's thinking about me, and so as far as I'm concerned, I'm a big John Lynch fan.
Nice.
And I have no problem saying that. And I'm a big Kyle Shanahan fan. But I do feel like sometimes you got to ask some direct, tough questions. I feel like I've been consistent enough with my attendance and with my questions and with my demeanor.
Oh, they respect, dude. They
that
definitely
they
have
will
respect
give
for you.
me. They will give me some respect, and I appreciate that. I do.
Hey,
appreciate
Kruegs,
that.
and again, our guest is Larry Krueger. You know the face, you know the show. It's the Krug Show. He's on all the time. This guy works his ass off. You can catch him. He always announces show times on Twitter. Now, actually, you know what? I want to ask Larry one question about our show, Tony. And then I want to ask Larry about the national championship. I got a bunch of stuff I want to bounce off Kruegs. Kruegs, let me ask you a question, bro. And this is with total respect. I'm doing this like in front of everybody, so there's no like weirdness about anything. So last Wednesday, Tony was like, you know what, dude? Oh, we had to do a night show because we had like scheduling problems during the day. So we punted to Wednesday night. Now I know you go Wednesday night. So here's what I want to say to you. We're going to try to do Wednesday night shows, Krug, at least sometimes. But what I want to do and say and tell you is that out of respect to your 9 o'clock slot, because that's your time, I'm thinking about doing Paulie Max Particles at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And that way it'd be like a segue from Paulie into Kruegs. And I just want to make sure I have your blessing on that. And I don't want you to think like I'm encroaching. That
no. And see, this is also kind of the beauty of YouTube. Like somebody follows you, then they follow me, then they follow Tommy T, then they follow Damon Bruce, then they follow whomever they follow, right? They get an alert, let's just say, every time. Well, okay, they get an alert, and if they have time, they pop in right then. They know when we're going live.
Right.
But that's the beauty of YouTube, is that it's on your time. So like people, even though you're live at that time, and maybe I'll catch you live, but maybe I'll just catch you when I'm okay with it.
That's what Tony always says.
I get no problem. It's not quite like radio in that regard. So like and me and you were going on Wednesdays at 9. I just I wasn't like we did any real evaluation of that time, and I mix it up. And I sometimes I'll try. I have some streams I try to do at the same time, but then a lot of times I'm just like, hey man, when can you do it?
Yeah.
Totally.
And then also the beautiful part about it is, like when you were on KMBR, you started at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. and people knew when to find you.
Yes.
Now it's like, you could. Every single time you go live, the audience will be there for you, because now, granted, they might be sleeping in the middle of the night, but every time you go live, you're going to put out a little thing, and they're going to get a little alert saying that you're live. Yep. And then they can either go live, or they can go with you live, or they can catch you later. I remember my dad used to say to me, or my mom used to say to me in my parents' final years, they would say, like, I'd say, Dad, I'd call him at 1:00. We were on at 2:00. I'm like, Dad, tell Dad we're on at 2:00. She's like, oh, he listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
And I said, what?
Yeah.
He listens to the podcast. This is a man who still has a transistor radio on his nightstand.
Nice.
I go,
very nice.
He listens to the podcast. She's like, yeah, he likes to listen when he does his taxes and when he does his bills. And so my dad had like a spot in his little office in our house. Yeah. And when he would sit there, that's when he wanted to do it. And so that was like an eye opener, because I was like, wait a second. If my dad is now listening when it's convenient for him, and he's a retired guy, then everybody's listening when it's convenient for them.
Well, This is great, man. This has been, and again, Larry, I really want to thank you. You've been so helpful and so supportive, and dude, you're just rock solid, dude. And I want to also kind of back what you said about John Lynch. Final thing before I go into the national title game last night is that when I had my low moment at KMBR and they showed me the door, like the beginning of The Odd Couple, they handed me the frying pan and they said, we'd like you to leave this place of residence and never return. I went home and same thing. John Lynch reached out. Unbelievably generous and heartfelt message, and he said a lot of really nice things about me on the air the following day, and I really appreciated that. So John, I'm just telling people in the audience to kind of back what Larry said. That's not a fluke. That's really who John Lynch is. He's a rock solid dude. Now
at the end of the day, that's what matters. Now I'm gonna be pissed if they take the wrong guy in the draft, but at the end of the day, you know what? Yeah. What really matters is who you are, who you are as a person. John Lynch is a real good person,
no doubt,
and
no doubt.
And that was, he's, as far as I'm concerned, John's good people.
I remember Larry, and he wants to win a ring just as much as the players. I mean, he is hell bent on getting that ring. Yeah.
I mean, here's the other thing too, guys. If you do TV, like let's say you're doing Monday night or you fly in, maybe you have a little conference call on a Thursday or Friday, you have a little meeting here or there. You're basically just living the retired life, except you have a little commitment late in the week. You board the bird, you get, you fly to wherever you're going to go, you do your game, you fly home, you're back normal person. When you're a general manager, you're spending 100 hours a week, 120 hours a week. You're all immersed up in it. It's you have a loose relationship with your children. I mean, his kids are grown at this point and they're out of the house. So it's like the perfect time. The perfect time to be a football person is when your kids are, 18, and they're already
an empty nester.
Yeah, because then it's like your wife doesn't want you home all day anyway. It's like, she wants you out there working or doing whatever. But it's tough. When you got like 4 kids under 8 or something, and they don't understand, why is Daddy not at my baseball game? Why is Daddy not at my Little League game? It's like, well, Daddy needs to look at a free safety from University of Alabama at Birmingham. It's like something tells me that doesn't satisfy the 8-year-old.
There's no off season. There's truly no off season.
Not anymore, man.
So like, guys, I had an opportunity to scout. I was a 27-year-old scout with the Arizona Cardinals. They offered me an entire region of the country. I had a really good couple of years. I had found them some players. I had scouted in the Canadian League. I had a burgeoning scouting career. And I met my wife, and all of a sudden it was like, dude, I don't want to be on the road 40 weeks a year.
That's what happens. I
don't know if I can make this relationship work if I'm on the road 40 weeks a year.
That's
and
real
all
talk.
I knew at that point was like what I knew as a kid, which was like, what did you want to? I'm one of 4 kids, right? I'm third of 4 kids. I knew from when I was like 15 years old that I wanted to have my own son, my own daughters, my own family, my own, I didn't want to be an only kid, or I didn't want to be a single person or a person with no kids. I wanted to have kids, and that was going to be part of my life. And I chose to go away from scouting at 27 to go into radio, because radio, even though it was not solid like some other jobs, there was an ability for me to stay and make good money and provide for my family and not be on the road 40 weeks a year. And so I chose radio, and I do not, I look at my children now and my life that I've had, and I would not do anything different.
No.
But there are times when I look around and I'm like, you know what? I wish I had 2 lives, or I wish I had a second chance. I could have had 2 different things, because now my kids are older and now I'm getting that bug to personnel.
Yeah. Now, I'm hoping you said you had 2 lives and not 2 wives with a W. I don't want to get Krueger in trouble. I'm
That's
just
right.
kidding.
Two lives.
2
with
lives.
a
Yeah, exactly.
L.
And by the way, final comment for Larry,
Yes.
Tony, before we get into the game last night, is that, and we're definitely going to be hitting in some bonus minutes today, Tony.
Yeah, because I got a couple for Larry, too.
I know.
Too, yeah.
So I just want to tell Kruegs that when you said, hey, man, you were telling people about your life, and you said, listen, I grew up here. This is my city. My name is Larry Krueger, blah, blah, blah. In my head, I was like, wow, because I'm really not Paul McCaffrey anymore. I'm Paulie Mack now. And I don't know if anybody even really knows this, but let me tell you the origin story of the name Paulie Mack. When Tony Salvador hired me, we were all hired by the same guy, Tony Salvador. The guy's a legend in San Francisco radio broadcasting history. And he hired me. I'll never forget, I was standing in his office, and he goes, I like what you're doing. You got a lot of energy. You're funny. You're saying all kinds of stuff. But I don't know. McCaffrey, a lot of syllables, McCaffrey. You know what I mean? From that, how do you feel about that? Paulie Mack. All right, Paulie Mack. And I go, dude, sold, done. Put me on the air. That's my name. So that's how that happened. That was actually given to me. I was like, I got knighted from
Wait
Tony
a second.
Salvador.
Now that makes a lot of sense, because I also did a show, a Niner pregame show a few years ago when we had the country station with a guy who went by Mac Daniels.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I said to him, he goes, yeah, Mac Daniels here. I go, your name's not Mac Daniels.
right.
He's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It was just like.
By the way,
classic.
my name when I started out in radio, I was nicknamed by Dan Silly. I was nicknamed Cue Ball because of my bald head. And
Right.
Larry is probably one of 3 people that still calls me Q. And I love it. I never want anything different. Larry.
Time out. You're forgetting 2 extra people that still call you Cue Ball, and probably will until the day you die, is my 2 sons. Both of my boys, they still call Tony, how's Cue Ball doing, Dad? I go, yeah, Cue Ball's good. He's doing fine. So, yeah, there's like a little cult following of you for the name Cue Ball still.
Man.
But let's talk. We got to get into the game a little bit with Larry.
Yeah,
sure.
So, Larry, a couple of questions. One, did it play out as you expected? A lot of people kind of, predicted that outcome. And then 2, I guess the bigger question is, did last night indicate any kind of changing of the guard to you in college football without the presence of the SEC in the title game for the first time? Is the Big Ten now like the conference in your mind, and the SEC has to answer, or do you see this as like kind of a one and done thing for the Big Ten?
Well, I mean, the SEC is where the passion is. It's where the money is. It's where the SEC network is I think gets higher ratings than the other conference networks. I think the SEC is still the premier conference in college football. There's tremendous passion. They added teams like Texas is now in the SEC. So you've got some. That's the thing. A lot of these conferences you have to almost look it up every day, every year to see who's in the conference.
Good call. Yeah.
But I thought my takeaway from last night was just that was a game that we wouldn't have gotten without the playoff. That was the 8-seeded Buckeyes against the 7-seed Notre Dame. And, it's like though in a Final Four, the 7 and the 8 seed don't make it. So I love it because college football is great, but at the beginning of the year it means a lot. But you lose a game in the beginning of the year in the past, and it was like your whole season's cooked.
That's right.
I like the fact that it now rewards the teams that are playing well at the end, because isn't that what it's about? There's college students. They're supposed to be getting better. The coach's job is to make them better. The coaches are making millions. It's like, if we're not going to reward the teams that are playing the best at the end, then I don't get why the whole thing doesn't make sense to me. So I just think that I like the fact that the Buckeyes lost to Michigan in the Big House, and it looked like their season was totally done. And the people were saying Ryan Day is going to be fired, and
that's right,
he can't win. And now he's won the national championship, and they have this awesome, incredible group of players. I guess the only thing I don't like about college football at this point is the the transfer portal. 26%
it sucks.
of all the players in the
sucks.
country are in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
And it just almost guarantees that the top teams will always be the top teams because Oregon doesn't have a quarterback because Bo Nix went to the pros. Well, in the past, you'd have put a freshman out there or a sophomore, and you take your lumps. Not this year. You signed Dylan Gabriel away from Oklahoma, and he's like 27 years old, and the guy's played college football for 19 years, and he comes in here as a senior, and he plays great in Oregon. I don't know. It's a little too much of the rich. It's like if all of a sudden the Dodgers, who are automatically super loaded, if there was also now a rule that the players that weren't happy with their teams in the first half could transfer to the Dodgers at the All-Star break.
Oh, God.
And it's like any weakness that the Dodgers would have, they could just rectify at the All-Star break by having somebody transfer from some other team to make their team. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at in college football. And I'm getting ready for the draft. John Lynch made the point the other day on KMBR. He's like, when we used to stumble across a guy who had transferred, it would stop our entire meeting down. Everybody would want to know, why did he transfer? What was the story behind it? Was it academics? Was it discipline? Did he get kicked off the team? Did he transfer against the coach's will? Did he surprise the university? Did he give him proper warning? Did he transfer to their rival? Was there beef here? Now, so many guys transfer that you don't even, he transferred. Oh, where did he transfer? He transferred from Troy State. I mean, it's like on to the next thing because it's not special because literally I'm doing draft deep dives. I did a video today on all the guys that impressed me in the college football playoff. And when I went through the list of guys that impressed me, I would say like 75% of them transferred from another school.
Right.
Could you imagine being the coaches too? I feel so bad for the coaches too.
It's got to be tough.
You bust your ass to recruit these kids, and you want to build your program around these kids, and then all of a sudden they're gone because they think the grass is greener somewhere else, and it might be. But there's just zero loyalty to anything anymore, and it really pisses me off.
Oh, and it plays on an age group that is prone to fall for it. For example, you and I, we all went to college, right? Okay, so in college, there was, you live in the dorms freshman year, okay?
Yep.
I can't tell you the number of girls and guys that I met freshman year at Sac State who were like kind of lukewarm on being at Sac State, and they had a friend at Boise State, and they had a friend at Davis, and they had a friend at Cal Poly, and I'm thinking about transferring, they weren't committed to Sac State because it was maybe their second or third choice.
Now these aren't even
it's just
athletes.
like it's
you're
bad.
Just talking you're just talking about.
I'm not talking about athletes. I'm just talking about people. But I mean, it's just a bad way to live. It's like you go through your life, you make a big decision. One of the biggest decisions any 18-year-old's ever going to make is I'm leaving home. I'm going to pick where I'm going to go to college. I'm going to pick someplace. Well, what are the odds that you're going to have a bad day in the first semester at some point? Really high. Really, really high.
Could be the first
day. Guess what?
Yeah.
If your first thought is I'm going to transfer, then that's not sticking it out. That's not like when I told my parents when I was like, I hated soccer, but I love sports. It was the first sport in like 5th grade or 4th grade. So I played soccer. We had a good year. I played again in 5th grade. And then I just didn't really like it. I played basketball. I played baseball. I loved those sports. So I said to my dad, like halfway through 6th grade, I'm like, Dad, I don't like soccer anymore. I'm going to quit. He's like, you can quit. I'm like, great. He's like, at the end of the year.
Yep.
You're not going to quit in the middle of the year. He said there were tryouts for this team. Some kid got cut, and you made it.
Oh, I like that.
And you took some kid's spot who's not going to get a chance to play, and you made a commitment to your coaches and your teammates. So guess what? We're not going to birthday parties on game days, and you're not quitting before the end of the year. So if you want to quit, you can quit and not try out next year, but you're on the team this year, and you're going to be on the team the rest of the year. Get it?
You made
Got
a commitment. You made a commitment.
It's hard to explain that to your kids sometimes because you're right. Like as soon as something goes bad, they foul one off their foot. All right, that's it. I quit. When they're little kids, it's like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. I know it hurts. You got to rub some dirt in it, shake it off, and keep playing. And it's also a good lesson to get to the kids that the world is not always going to unfold for you as you would like to, or as you would like it to. There are going to be bumps in the road. There will be curveballs thrown your way, and you got to kind of deal with those and take your lumps and move forward. Now, Creative Tony, do you think we should ask Larry about Giants off season, or do you want to go right to the football playoffs?
I want to talk to Larry about something Niners related real quick, because it looks like the Jags are about to hire away the Bucs offensive coordinator Liam Cohen to be the head coach of the Jaguars.
Great sign.
Does that mean that's a good sign that Saleh comes back as the D coordinator, you think?
Yes. Yeah, okay. I do. The belief, I just saw that as well. The belief in coming out of Tampa is that their offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, is going to be the choice of Shad Khan and Trent Baalke in Jacksonville. It makes perfect sense because, you know, you got Trevor Lawrence there, and you invested a lot, and he hasn't developed. So you're going to hire Robert Saleh, a defensive coach, and not give Trevor Lawrence that development, or you're going to hire an offensive coach, try to develop your quarterback. Now, you know, I think Trent Baalke was like, hey, I like Robert Saleh because Trent Baalke drafted Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson, and it hasn't worked out. And I think he's looking for some defensive coach who's of note to come in and make that pick look better by coaching up Trayvon Walker. But the priority's got to be Trevor Lawrence.
I was hoping he was going to do that, Tony, in the Trent Baalke voice. Well, we really needed an offensive-minded coach. Saul is a defensive genius, granted, but I'd rather have somebody in here that can help Trevor Lawrence. You know, I need the voice.
I've always felt like Trevor, you know, he has ACL problems, Lowry.
He's got a bright future,
And I tell you, I went on that show with you and John Lund, and you guys peppered me with a lot of questions about my linebackers.
I was treated unfairly at that time.
Nothing was better than when Trent Baalke wrote the name. Remember draft day when Sonny Weaver wrote, you know, Vontae Mack, no matter what, on an envelope, in an envelope. Yeah. Well, Trent Baalke obviously had seen that movie because he told me and Damon Bruce during the A.J. Jenkins draft that he wrote A.J. Jenkins' name down, and I put it in an envelope, Lowry, and I opened it, and it said, you know what? If a guy plays 4 years in the Big Ten and he can't play dead, don't fucking draft him. No, but I drafted him anyway.
It's as far as we go with that. It's fun. Tony, you want to join in? It's fun doing the voice.
Dude, I cannot even come close to matching that.
The only
I can go Barbieri on you guys. I can.
Wow.
Tom. I am so proud. I'm so proud of Paulie Mack that he started a YouTube channel vis-a-vis Tony Ryan and Larry Krueger and all that. And I've always said, I love Amici. Hey, let's take some calls, Tom. Pick one.
Do you have time, Tony, to share the Ralph Barbieri deer urine story? Do you have time for that?
Wow.
I think Larry might appreciate that, and I think the listeners would too, the viewers. Let's talk deer urine. Let's talk Ralph Barbieri. Wow. The floor is yours. That's where we're going today, Tony.
This is quite a digression, Larry, so you have to excuse the digression. But when I was Ralph and Tom's producer years and years ago, Ralph came into work one day, and he was really depressed. And myself and Jen Violet at the time was a call screener, assistant producer, and we were like, Ralph, what's going on? He goes, oh, another deer got hit, you know, outside my house on this street, and deer get hit on this street all the time, and it really bums me out when I drive past a dead deer. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, we thought it was gonna be something a lot worse, right? So anyways, Jen did some homework and found a website called predatorp.com.
Here we go.
And here we go. We presented to Ralph, hey, Ralph, if you really want to do something about it, there is something you could do where you can purchase wolf urine. And
wolf urine, my bad. Okay.
Yeah. If you spread the wolf urine around the area, deer will think that wolves are nearby and they won't come around. And Ralph literally, without even hesitating,
ordered it.
Gets me his credit card.
Give me a case of the wolf urine, and then when I have Tony sprinkling on my property.
Yeah. He said, buy the max amount you can buy, have it sent to work.
Max amount.
And then he didn't say anything. And then after the show, he pulls me aside and he goes, hey, you want to make some extra money? And I go, yeah, maybe. He goes, how about you come to my house at 2 a.m. When the urine arrives?
True story.
I'll pay you to spread the wolf urine around the proximity of this area. Larry, I did. I put on some galoshes. I had one of those, those pump things where you can spray and hold and the hose and pump.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I have one of those, and he paid me a bunch of cash. He gave me the retired sheriff's business card in case, and he goes, keep my name out of it.
Yeah.
But if you get popped, use this guy's name. And so I did it like 3 times, to the point where Brent Jones still calls me Wolf Boy whenever I see Brent Jones. And but he was so happy. He's like, we're making a difference. We're saving deer. And I was like, okay, dude.
God bless Ralph, man. That's it.
Right.
I love that story. I forgot it was Wolf urine. That's a big detail. I got to get correct on.
I've got so many Ralph stories, dude. I've got Ralph stories.
By the way,
he left me. My daughter Anna is now like 23 or 24, and his son Tate were literally born within like 2 weeks of each other.
Oh,
so here we are, and it's my first child, and it's his first child, and we're going through it, and we're facing off every night. So I told him, I didn't know you're. So we have kids that are exactly the same age. So after a couple of years, she was born in 2000. After a couple of years, now it's like 2003, whatever. He's taking Tate to Disneyland. And I said, I'm going to take Anna to Disneyland, and Anna and Kevin to Disneyland. He said, Krug, you got to go to Disneyland. I'm telling you, though, I know it like the back of my hand. I know that place. I really do. Do not even think you're going to Disneyland without asking me what my advice is. And I'm like, I go home. I tell my wife, I'm like, Ralph wants me to consult him about
involved.
Disneyland.
Yeah. Right.
So she's like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I'll just call. I'll just leave him a voicemail on his work voicemail and this and that.
Nice, good idea.
So I go, hey Ralph, it's Krug. I don't have time during the face-offs to talk about Disneyland at all, but why don't you just leave it here on my work voicemail?
Nice.
Which I never used. Ever used.
Nobody did. Nobody did. I don't even know my own phone number.
You've reached Larry Krueger at KMBR. Boop. It's like nothing, right?
Nothing.
Never heard it. Okay, so Ralph leaves. Yeah, so I forget about it because he doesn't call my house. He leaves it on the voice. So then now it's a couple weeks and we're getting ready to leave. And I'm like, we're going to Disneyland. He's like, you got all my messages about Disneyland, And I'm like, no. I'm like, I told you to leave. I got to listen to him still. Hold on, I'll listen to him tonight. So I didn't know how to listen to my voicemail. So I go home, I can't figure it out. So I come in, I go, Agnew, I got voicemail, right? I can't figure it out. And he's like, Krueger can't even figure out his fucking voicemail. Salvador's like, fucking Krueger, and he's walking down the hall. Izzy helps me with my voicemail. Isabel Lemon. She's like, here's the code, this and that. Right. So I got the code. Right. So it goes, you have 7 messages.
They're all from Ralph.
The first one was from somebody asking me if I could pick up a package in the lobby. I was like, okay, so that was, but I got 6 voicemails. It goes like this. Hey, Krug, it's Ralph. How you doing? I know you're going to Disneyland. Here's what you do. You get in. You immediately take the tram from the front of the park to the back of the back of the park, and you work from the back to the front. You don't work from the front to the back. Krug, I got to tell you this. Do whatever you do. I got lots of suggestions, but don't you dare work from the front to the back. You work from the back to the front. Boop.
Yeah, I was gonna say he got cut off. Didn't he?
Okay, he's like,
all the time.
Ralph and Krug, it's Ralph again. I got cut off.
Anyway,
sorry about that. I was just telling you about Disneyland, and now he's rehashing the. I want you to go from the back to the boop. Krug, this is Ralph again. I can't even get any of this out. But here's the key. Go to Toontown, and that's where the Disney princesses line up. And they're really attractive. I talked to a girl a few weeks ago. She was from Fullerton. She was very, very nice. Beautiful girl. She was a beautiful girl. I think she was Princess Aurora, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
Boop. Hey, Krug, it's Ralph again. I just want to let you know, if you get over by the Matterhorn, you've gone too far, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like it's 6. Yeah. It's 6. God. I go to Agnew. I go, Agnew. Ralph just left me 6 voicemails about Disneyland.
Yeah, what the hell,
he pops out of his seat. Agnew pops out of his seat. This guy's, this is the executive who runs the station. You would think this is just would not excite him. He jumps out of his seat. He runs down the hallway. He's like, Sal. And then Tony comes out of his office. He's like, Barbieri left Krueger a fucking 6-bagger at Disneyland. It's a fucking 6-bagger. And then Salvador goes, oh, I got to hear this. And he comes walking down. Now the three of us are sitting there. Izzy's in the doorway. Yeah. We're listening to the whole thing. Krieg, once again, tune 10. Beep. All this stuff. And Salvador's just dying. Like, Barbieri's a fucking nut job. Fucking
Those were some great days, man. No, it really was.
Great freaking days, dude.
They were. They truly were. They were special days, man.
They were. In fact, I would assess those days that we're all talking about as like kind of the last golden period in terrestrial radio, because there was still money flying around. Tony Salvador was overseeing the operation. You had Hammer and Agnew, and these are all people that really were passionate about radio. Like Tony used to call it magic. He would go, you see that little speaker over there? Magic comes out of that speaker. Magic. And it's just not like that anymore. The guys aren't as passionate. People in the business running things are more concerned now with numbers than they are.
And Tony was like Tony Soprano. He was the boss. If he liked you, you could make a ton. If he didn't like you, you were probably fired. Yeah, I remember I was number one through the winter of 2002. Yeah. Giants baseball at nighttime was always number one.
Back then, it was huge. Oh,
number one. Yeah. But when you got to September, and now the Giants baseball is gone, the nighttime would fall to like 3, 4, 5. And I said to Salvador, I'm going to keep nighttime number one the entire offseason. So I kept nighttime the number one the entire offseason. He said, Krueger, you fucking did it. You were number one the entire fucking offseason.
Number one. Number one. Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to pay you $25,000 more than I fucking should. More than I fucking should. Just because I got great respect for the fact that you won at night in the off season. This motherfucker won at night in the off season. Kind of stuff.
That's classic. And that's a really kind of revealing story about Tony, because that's right. If he liked you and you succeeded and you helped his business, he would reward you. He would take care of you. And that $25K, so that would never happen today. That would never happen today.
I get dumped, because of the Felipe Alou, the whole thing. It's 2000. Now Damon Bruce is doing the show. And now he's calling me going, I'm not making as much money as I want to be making. And what should I do? And I'm just like, if you were standing in front of me, I'd break your jaw right now. But I go, you got to talk to Tony. I go, Tony's the guy. Don't screw around with Agnew or any of these other guys.
No, it's all about
Tony. If you're going to get paid there, you got to go to Tony. Right. So he goes to Tony. And Salvador told me this later, but Damon told me it as well. So he goes to Tony and he goes, Tony, I don't like what I'm making right now. I believe I should be making more. And Tony's already rolling his eyes. He's like, I'd like to take you to lunch and we can discuss this. We can discuss this.
I remember hearing about this.
So they go to Umbria.
Yes.
Damon sits down and Salvador goes, first of all, you're not getting a raise. You're not getting a penny more than what you're making right now. Now let's have some lunch.
Wow. Tony, you guy's a gangster, man.
He's gangster.
Final word on Tony, and then I want to talk NFL playoffs, Tony, and then we'll let Larry go. We'll wrap it up there. One time when I think it was when he paired the two of us together, actually, because Larry and I did a short-lived show together in the early 2000s. And when Tony was telling me what he wanted from me, listen to what he said. I'll never forget this. Because Larry's like the straight man. He's the analyst. He's got all these facts and figures, and he's out there beating the drum. And I'm coming in with bells and whistles and comedy and riffs. And I love sports, but I have a different approach than somebody like Larry. And that's the idea. You get two guys with different personalities. You put them together, hope it's going to work. So he goes like this. He goes, now listen, Paulie Mac, when you're working with Krueger, he goes, I want you to go in. I want you to bring an element of cool to the show. I want the show to be cool. And then listen to this, Tony. He goes, and I want it to be hip, but don't be so hip that you hip yourself right out of the fucking room. And I said, I think I understand. What you're asking me for, Tony. Thank you, sir. But Tony and I have had a great relationship over the years, and he still is passionate about radio to this day. And at some point, Tony, we'll get him on. We'll do it. We'll have a conversation with Tony.
He's the best. He sends me texts. I get texts from Tony, every couple months, and he's a good man. And I never me and him, obviously, he had to fire me, so it was like we had some rough moments. But I never held it against him, and we always maintained a great friendship, and he's I think he respected me for the way I handled that, and I think that's why we're good friends to this day. So,
I know, for
Tony, if you're out there, I love you, brother.
We all love you, Tony, and I know for a fact he has tons of respect for you, Krug, and he likes you a lot. I know that. He's told me that. And here's one more thing: Tony, we did it when we were working on the Ticket 1050, Larry, in the late 90s, the flagship for the Raiders. They were firing everybody. It got to the point where they're like, all right, let's blow this thing up. It's not working. Get rid of Cilio. Well, put Brooks on KMBR. Let's blow up the morning show with Paulie and Tony. And he wanted to keep us on in like these kind of like support roles, like doing updates and stuff. And I was like telling Tony, little Tony, cue ball Tony. I said, I'm not doing that, man. I don't want to do updates and that kind of nonsense. So check this out, Krugs. I don't know if you even know this story. Tony Ryan and I wrote letters of resignation. So we walk into work the next day and we formally resigned. This is like in the year, like probably 1999, 2000, something like that. So we go in, we resign, and that caught Tony off guard. I don't think he expected that. So we were like, hey, listen, we're just going to try something else. And he goes, the truth of the matter is you guys are probably going to be more suited for FM radio with your style and all this comedy you're doing. And I said, that's great. Yeah, we'll work on FM, whatever opportunity comes along. And then when we got up, listen to this, Krugs. Here's the punchline of the story. When we got up to leave his office, I shook his hand and I said, hey, Tony, listen, I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you. And we left. And then, sure enough, a couple of years later, he calls me, hey, come in, let's have a conversation. So we go back, and now he's pairing me with Brian Murphy, and now we're about to start working together. And Tony was like telling all these sales reps in the room about me, and he goes, I had to let this guy go a few years ago. And you know what he said? He said, thanks for the opportunity. Like, he remembered that. Like, that mattered to Tony. Like, that I didn't flip out. I didn't yell at him. I wasn't pissed. I was very appreciative, actually, even though he was telling me to leave the building. I was like, hey, man, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And that resonated with him, and that connected, and it really it kind of
the moral of the story is to those who are listening, if you're sitting there going, what can I take from this that I can use in my own life, is that the world is a small place. It seems like a big place, but it's kind of a small place. And cities are small, and industries are small. And just remember, you're gonna if you do this long enough, you're gonna have days where you win, and everybody's gonna be throwing you rose petals at your feet and saying you're awesome. And there's gonna be days that you lose, and that ain't gonna happen. And you've got to be able to roll with it. So just don't. The same thing, my middle son plays baseball, and he's really, really got the perfect mentality for baseball. Why?
Nice.
If he goes 4 for 4 and throws a guy out at the plate from right field, he's like, it was all right. If he goes 0 for 4, struck out 3 times and dropped a fly ball, it was all right. He's got the even keel. We can't help what happens to us in life. We can help how we react to what happens to us in life.
Check this out. Watch this transition. Watch me dazzle you guys with an effective transition. Speaking of even keel, okay, let's talk about the Washington Commanders for a second, kids.
Let's do it. Not his first rodeo.
I got to tell you, Larry, that Tony called it last week. He goes, listen, I like the Commanders going up to Detroit and actually shocking the world and winning this game. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't expect that. I thought the Lions would beat them by a couple of scores, but here they are. They're headed to Philly. Tony and I have already talked about this yesterday, but I'd love to get your thoughts, Larry, about how you view the NFC Championship. And then we'll wrap it up with the Chiefs game and the Bills in the AFC. But I like the Commanders in this game. I got to tell you the truth, with a wounded Jalen Hurts, with a, I think, suspect collection of plays that they called in Philly. They had him running around trying to throw the ball in the snow when they got the best running back in the NFL. He could have done the heavy lifting, and he did. But I don't know. I got a feeling, Larry. How do you view this game, and how do you assess the Washington Commanders in the position that they're in right now?
Well, my prediction going into the weekend was, I barked like a dog on like 3 different streams, and I'm like, it's going to be a dog's weekend. And I got lucky because the Chiefs got that safety. Otherwise, they win by 11. Instead, they win by 9, and the Texans
Krug,
covered.
real quick. Did you catch Joe Buck when that safety happened? He's like, a lot of people are interested in that number.
That's right, Troy. Yeah.
Well, not only that, I mean, you think about the Chiefs. How hot are they right now? They knew that probably a big percentage of their fans bet them minus the spread, and they ruined the spread for their fans, but won the game.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's how hot they are. They don't even care about ruining the spread for their fans in a victorious game, and they didn't have to do that. But, yeah, the Texans covered, the Commanders covered, the Rams covered, and the Bills were dogs too. And I liked all the dogs this weekend. I'll go further. I think the Commanders beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think the Commanders win it all.
Wow,
thank you, Larry.
Amazing call. Do you feel that way too, Tony?
I do. I do.
Wow.
I want Bills Commanders Super Bowl, and I think so also, Larry. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. The way Jaden Daniels is playing so loose and cool and calm, it's like he's been in the league. It's like he's been in the playoffs every season for 6 straight seasons, and he's running the show. And I'm thinking, this guy is a rookie.
His composure is unbelievable. His poise,
it's incredible, and his connection with McLaurin is something to behold too. I think that's a dangerous connection.
Yeah, and like you've been saying, Tony Tony's been talking about this one aspect of the Commanders is that how loose they play the game. Like this is not a tight team. They come in having fun. They're loose. It's almost like they wait for you to self-destruct. They put the pressure on the other team, the favorite, and I think they're very comfortable in the underdog role. And I love the fact that both of you guys think they can beat Philly. I do too. So finally, Larry, last thing of the show today, and then Tony, we'll tease what we got coming up tomorrow night. But the AFC, this is it. This is the big one now. This is Ali Frazier, essentially, of the playoff landscape. I look at it like this, Larry. To me, it's kind of now or never for the Bills. Like, I think this is the best opportunity they have to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and advance. Now, I'd love to see that happen. I don't trust the referees and how this whole thing will be officiated. I always expect Kansas City to get calls, and they do. But do you think Buffalo can go up there, or go into Arrowhead rather, and steal this one and pull off the win?
No doubt. I think they can, but I guess I'm not that impressed by the Bills' defense. I wish their defense had a little bit better, a little bit more teeth. Yep. But I think that the Chiefs are gettable. You look at the Chiefs. Mahomes has thrown for under 200 yards a bunch this year. Isaiah Pacheco is not in the same condition as he was in the past.
He's not the same. Yeah,
he's not the same. He doesn't look the same. They're leaning on Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's older. Travis Kelce was great in this last game, but their receivers were totally shut out. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown, they all got shut out in this last game. And I just think that Kansas City is good. And they're limping towards they're trying to win 3 in a row, but they're kind of limping towards the finish line. They got a killer defense, and they've got the best special teams coach going and a really good kicker. But something tells me that one of these teams is going to get them, and I'm not sure if it's Buffalo or if it's Washington, but one of those teams is not going to be the year of the Chiefs. The Chiefs just aren't good enough this year. They're not doing enough.
I agree.
They're not Chris Jones is not quite at the level that he's been at. They did have 8 sacks and 14 hits on the quarterback against Houston, but that's Houston's offensive line. CJ Stroud holding the ball. I mean, Daniels is just calm.
Unbelievable.
He's collected.
Yeah.
I think Buffalo. Buffalo, I don't know if Buffalo's going to win there, but to me, it seems like the year of Josh Allen. So I think it's going to be, I think Buffalo is going to, it's rough being Buffalo, right? They've lost all those Super Bowls. They're going to win this game and go to the Super Bowl. It's going to be all these people going, Josh Allen's getting his, Josh Allen's getting his. And what's going to happen is nobody's going to be talking about the Commanders and Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels went to LSU. So it's going to be a homecoming for him in New Orleans. Yeah. And I just think that he's going to be back in a part of the country he's comfortable with.
I love it.
All the pressure is going to be on Josh Allen and Buffalo. They finally vanquished the Chiefs. this is their time. Everybody's going to talk about a coronation, and then the Commanders are going to win.
I love it, Cruz. Hey, listen, and that's the thing. I feel like Josh Allen right now really is poised. And Tony, I know you have something too. So right after I'm done, but I saw the post game after their win the other day, and Josh Allen just had a look in his eye, and he was saying all the right things. I love the way he handles himself with the media. He's very focused. He's very serious. They asked him a question about the Chiefs, and he goes, to tell you the truth, we haven't even looked at the Chiefs yet. We've had all of our sights on this opponent. Next week, we'll start to talk about the Chiefs. My point is, I just like his demeanor right now, Tony. He seems like a guy poised, kind of like Steve Young going into the 94 season. They had that great year, and you could tell, hey, it's going to happen right now for Steve Young. It's finally going to happen. And I get a whiff of that right now. It's a similar feeling I have when I see Josh Allen. Creative Tony, go ahead, and then we're going to wrap this bad boy up.
I just want Josh Allen to keep the ball away from Trent McDuffie, the Chiefs cornerback, who's just having a fantastic season. And I want to see more of Josh Allen's legs. I want to see him run. Like if the first couple looks aren't open, take off.
He won't hesitate. He will not. He scored 2 touchdowns last week.
He's hard to bring down. I want to keep, but I want them to keep doing that. Don't back off that, right?
No, I don't think they will. I think if Josh Allen sees a crease and there's nothing available, he's going to take it. He'll just take it.
One thing I have to bash somebody here, and I'm
all right. Let's get into it. Yeah,
John Harbaugh is the most overrated coach in pro football today. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
You don't have Zay Flowers, your number one receiver. Okay. You're in Buffalo in freezing conditions. You have Derrick Henry. He's averaging 5 yards a carry.
That's
you just ran for 185. So you don't have your quarterback is, even though he's won 2 MVPs, is not necessarily the best passing quarterback in the playoffs. And he was 2, and I think 3 and 5 now in the playoffs. So Lamar is not necessarily a playoff monster. 1. He doesn't have Zay Flowers, who is far and away his best receiver. And you run Derrick Henry 16 times instead of 25 times. Yep. I mean, James Cook ran 17 times. And it'd be one thing if you can't run. You have a big physical offensive line. The Ravens run the ball. They have the all-pro fullback. His name's Patrick Ricard. He's a 300-pound converted offensive lineman. You have a 300-pound tight end who's the all-pro tight end. You have future Hall of Famer Derrick Henry, who had 185 yards last week. Yeah. You're running for 6 yards a pop. You don't have your number one receiver. You're in cold weather, and Lamar is not the most trustworthy passer in the playoffs. And you come out and pass 25 times and run it 30 times, and Henry only gets 16 runs. That should have been 40 runs, and Henry should have had at least 25 runs. And if they just ran the ball a little bit more, guess what? You probably don't have those Lamar turnovers.
Yeah, Larry, the Ravens ran the ball 50 times against the Steelers in the wild card round, and they only ran it 30 times. 30 times
in the snow, no less. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
And they were going for 5.9 a carry. Yep. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just Derrick Henry. Justice Hill ran for 8 yards a carry. Lamar himself ran for 6.5 a carry. But instead, it's like with no Flowers, you're going to drop back and pass the ball 25 times and run it 30 on freezing conditions. I mean, look at Buffalo, for example. Same game. They don't have Derrick Henry, and they ran it 36 times and threw it 22 times.
And, of course, they win the game. And then
they won the game.
You've got the drop passing attempt on the 2-point conversion to tie the game when maybe they should have ran a bootleg. Maybe they should have just given the ball to Derrick Henry. They're right there anyway.
That was a bad drop. I mean,
it was awful.
It was awful. I feel bad for Mark Andrews. He fumbled
and he
dropped the easiest pass ever. I mean, talk about a guy who just looked like he just was miserable.
That's a guy Tony Salvador would say, you know what, Mark? I think your best days are behind us. Maybe you should maybe you should put yourself in that transfer portal they're talking about all the time.
Well, hey, Baltimore does have that Isaiah Likely kid, waiting in the wings. I wonder what's going to happen to Mark Andrews in the offseason. But hey, Larry, real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of angst after Sunday's Chiefs game. I need to know. I need to ask you this question because I've yet to find a logical answer. What are defensive players
here we go.
here we go against Mahomes? Like I don't
because you can't hit him. You can't even come close to hitting him without getting flag thrown.
I just don't know what their approach should be, because obviously they're trying to take his head off. They're trying to, stuff him. They're trying to sack him. But I feel like the calls that were made in that last game says to the defense, back off. And how do you tell the defense?
Each roughing the quarterback call, the one in the fourth quarter and the one in the first quarter, I think you could dispute them easily, both calls. And I think both calls were bogus. The first one, there was no head-to-head contact. The second one, you had Henry To'oTo'o and the other defender jumping over Mahomes essentially and smacking heads together, and both of them drew the flag. So my thing is, Larry, if they're going to throw the flag anyway, you might as well blow his ass up. Go and unload on Mahomes, because if you don't, you're still getting the penalty. So you might as well get your money's worth. But anyway,
I mean, you saw the two Houston defenders that collided with each other, and the impact of their helmets around Mahomes made them throw the flag, even though Mahomes was just in the area of and he took very little of that hit. I mean, that was really bad, but the other one was even worse. The other one was just a hit to the chest.
Come on, man.
It's like, come on, man. I mean, I agree with Paulie. I know it sounds bad to say, hit somebody, but you know what? You're going to get penalized.
No matter what.
Go get your money's worth.
Yeah.
Go get somebody in the first half of one of these games to get dead run. Something. I'm not talking about a corner. I'm talking about give me somebody who's 235 or more who can get a dead run and just smoke Mahomes one time really hard.
He does that little dance on the sidelines where he's baiting the defensive players.
He's trying to draw you in.
Smoke him. Just absolutely helmet to helmet. Just run him over like a bus.
Okay.
And then just take whatever comes with it. If it comes with an ejection, if it comes with a penalty or whatever, take your penalty. You got to make him. I mean, think about it. The guy's lost one time in the Super Bowl. When? It was when he didn't have his offensive tackles, and the Buccaneers were jailbreaking on his ass and hitting him left and right. All quarterbacks don't like to be hit, but this whole thing where you slow down or on the sideline and then you get the flag. I mean, it's just no. I don't want to see that anymore. The officials ought to, the same way the NBA officials say no, you're not gonna sit there and flop, and we're gonna penalize flopping. They got to penalize flopping in the NFL.
Correct.
I'm with you 100%. And on that note, DJ Q Ball, cue up the exit music while I tease what's ahead tomorrow, because we got to let Larry go. I want to thank you for your time today, Larry. It's been great. And don't forget, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Polymax Particles returns. We will have the mystery guest unveiled. We will have the first Polymax documentary in over a year, Creative Tony. Well, we're ready to unleash this on the masses. And anything else I'm forgetting, Creative Tony, before we say goodbye?
No. I just want to thank, first of all of the commenters and people that have been dropping science on the side. I wanted Dom Peralta also. CC Sabathia was just elected to the Hall of Fame, Vallejo Zone. So I want to say congrats to CC.
Very
Sabathia.
Nice. Congrats, CC.
Thanks
good
for
dude.
The heads up on that,
good
Dom.
dude.
Yeah, really good dude.
Great dude.
Really great story. And thanks for the heads up on that, Dom. And thanks for everybody else for commenting. Larry, dude, thank you. Dude,
onward and upward, fellas.
That's right.
Hope everybody who's in the chat, who's a member of the Krug Show, give these guys a like and a subscribe. Help them build up their channel and help them get to 50,000 subs. It's a good place to be, I'll tell you.
That's where we're trying to get. We're trying to fly alongside Larry, but we got some work to do. So, Krugs, thank you so much. Everybody tune into the Krug Show. You know he's money. And Creative Tony, thanks for everything today. You're always doing it, and I know you got a lot going on behind the scenes. So, respect and props to you. And everybody, oh, yes, Tony. Please.
I'm just saying tomorrow night. We'll be on tomorrow night. Night flight, night shift, night moves tomorrow night with Polymax Particles.
And don't forget about Night Songs by Cinderella. I don't want to leave them out. And I want to see that Led Zeppelin trailer tomorrow night, too. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
So, again, on behalf of Creative Tony Ryan and myself and Larry Krueger, thanks so much, everybody. And thank you, Krugs. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on Polymax Particles. Peace, y'all.
Peace.